Since we're all here, let's start the meeting at 8:33. Thank you, everybody, for your time this morning. So I think the first item up on the agenda is to review and approve the meeting minutes from January 21. And Claire, I noticed the file name that you had given to the meeting minutes was dated 1/21/25. So.
I may have misnamed that.
Yeah.
Was the content correct?
Yeah, I looked it over. It looked fine to me. Again, it was just the file name
Okay.
that was of a different year.
Okay. I will make that correction.
I can make a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
I'll second that.
Motion by Richard, seconded by Bill to approve the minutes as written with the exception of the file name. Change the date on the file name. So any further comments? I'll just say once again, thank you to everybody that played a role in listening to everything that was said and preparing the minutes. So if there aren't any further comments or questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So next up would be grant proposals, approvals, and updates.
We don't have a lot this time around. There's no items needing approval from the committee. We may have some in the near future since Lena has an active enhancement grant round that we will be reviewing next week. So hoping to have quite a few projects coming out of that round, but that'll probably be for our next month's meeting. The one update I had for you all today was just to give you a sense of what the FY27 budget for the core services agreement looks like. As you know, we requested, I believe it was $948,200 of the from the Agency of Agriculture to put in the budget for this year. That represented a continuation of our $612,000 base funding, the $250,000 one-time funding, and then, as you remember, we did a cost of living adjustment. The budget that the governor submitted to the legislature did include the $612,000 baseline continuation. That's better than we've gotten in the past. In the past, they've cut that line item, but they didn't. They just rolled it forward. So I do consider that progress and a vote of support from the Agency of Ag. However, they did not include continuation of the one-time funding or the cost of living adjustment. So VACD currently is working with the legislature to advocate for restoration of those amounts. VACD had its advocacy day last Friday, and it went very well. I think the committees were very receptive. In the past, we've gotten questions about, why did Agency of Ag cut you, things like that. We didn't get any of those questions this year. It was really just about what do you need and maybe explain some details about your request. So we'll be following up with details about the budget that the 900,000 etc. plus would support. But I think we are in a better position this year than in the past. And I do think the fact that we pared down the request was taken very well by the legislature, given the fact that they are cutting entire programs at this point with the budget situation. So more to come on that, but I just wanted to let you know where we currently stand and that VACD is working on it with the legislature. So any questions or topics you'd like to discuss around that?
I just want to a little bit of put in some input that they should be definitely looking at, if not the one-time 250, definitely COLA. just so we can keep a level.
Right.
Be level funded, even if
Yep.
you put the same numbers in, they aren't gonna work unless you throw in that COLA percentage. We'll be backing up.
Yeah. Richard, I know you know that very well, and I know everybody here knows that because you work directly with the district budgets. You see the cost of benefits and all of that going up. This is a tricky point with the legislature. The appropriations committee has already made a determination not to approve COLA increases.
Huh.
That's a big decision because that does mean everybody would have to make cuts. That said, we think that there may be support for the district ask regardless. So we just maybe don't want to emphasize that point. And not that we're trying to, hide anything from the legislature, but I think it will make our advocates' lives easier if they just focus on the fact that we are asking, yes, this is an increase, but we're already underfunded for what we do. So that's, I think, a really strong position to be in, just say like, we're already underfunded. Like this is an increase, but it's not anywhere near what we would hope to have in an ideal world. So I think that's just a nuance on it, but I guess this is also just to stress how difficult the budget situation is with the state right now. We're trying to be understanding when talking with legislators because they are in a position of making very difficult determinations right now. So,
Right.
But what they have to understand too, if they make cuts, they will not get as much work done on the other end.
Right.
And they can't demand more.
Right.
Can't mandate more.
yeah. Yep. I think they're going to be hearing that message from a lot of people. So, yeah. I don't have anything more on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead.
my only comment, Claire, is that we've been underfunded for years, going on many years now.
Yeah.
So
Decades.
to get back to 948, our original request, we've walked away from the $3 million need that's still sort of out there. It's an unspoken need, but nonetheless, the 948 was, an attempt to reconcile that shortcoming by respecting the difficulty that we all recognized the legislature was going to be facing. So anyway, it sounds like it's well in hand for people that are speaking to the legislators about this matter. So
I think so. The one additional thing I would add that I forgot to mention earlier, we're talking with Senate institutions about separately some capital requests. We do have a district that's requesting money for a building purchase. That's Orleans County. So that's sort of a separate issue that came to light later on in our process. I am hoping to talk about the need for district office space more with council at the board meeting next week. Because there is and this is actually on our agenda for today too. We may need to look at a statute change to make this possible. So, but just so you know, while we're talking about, funding requests of the legislature, it's about a $275,000 request from Orleans. And we have supported one-off requests from districts along these lines in the past. A couple of years ago, we did a office request from Potley Meadowy that was funded. Last year, Bennington had a veterans farm request that was funded. This committee is extremely friendly to us, so there's actually a good chance this might get funded. But we also need to talk about in the future how to make these kinds of asks, make sure that every district has the opportunity to make this kind of ask. Because we've been treating it very ad hoc, just whoever has a need at the immediate time, we're talking with the legislature. And I know more districts have needs for this. So we're going to talk about that with the DMs and get their input. But just so you know what's happening currently, we have our base funding request and then the capital request. These are totally separate budgets, so they shouldn't impact one another. The fact that we're asking for building doesn't negatively impact our base request. So just so you're aware.
Call from private.
Yeah, well, if it shuts you up.
Call from private.
All right,
Here we go.
there we go. All right, well, I don't think this requires any sort of motion or vote,
No.
but Claire, thank you. I guess, is it fair to say, Claire, based on what you know and what you've seen as far as advocacy, if Michelle or others that are tracking this matter, they need one of us to jump in and say something to somebody, will be contacted? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. That's fair. Okay, so other grant updates as needed?
Have none at this time.
All right, just for Bill and Richard, I did do the ACH approval this morning that Lena had set up. What was it about? It was about $100,000. Is that right? Yeah. So payment to districts and a payment to VACD. So work is progressing. So if I'm looking at the agenda correctly, that brings us to administrative updates.
Yes. So I can jump in with this. And just to, I don't think anything we're going to talk about needs a vote today. But this is mostly just for your, for input and for your awareness. I'm going to share my screen. I sent out a memo, before the meeting, and this outlines the statute change that we think we're going to need, related to district office space requests. Rick, I know you've been in the loop on potential statute change requests in the past. Our overall strategy has not been to open up our statute unless there's a need or unless the legislature does it for us. We had hoped to have a thorough review of statute and have a consolidated, agreed upon slate of changes to do all at once. The NRCC board did create a statute review committee last year. I was tasked with making this happen, and I have not been able to do that. There's been a variety of reasons why. A lot of my time has been spent on the VACD side of things, both with the executive director transition, then all of the federal funding, instability and government shutdown issues. And then we had two other staff leave, Jeff Farber and now Carrie Youngblood. And so it's been a rolling series of events that has really kept a lot of my time away from VACD. And we can talk or on the VACD side of things, and we can talk about that more. There's a staffing change line item, but just so you know, that's the background of sort of why I haven't been able to get this committee together. That said, we are being presented with a need to change our statute. This highlighted line here is how our statute currently reads, and it's a very confusing. It's phrased in a confusing way, where it's a little unclear about whether or not this phrase here refers only to this last line item or to the entire section. But I have had the AG's office look at it, and they take a very conservative read of it, where they say it's best to treat it as if it applies to this entire section, which would mean that we can't obtain real estate using a mortgage. I I've taken a look at this. Michelle Monroe has taken a look at this. We don't think this section is needed anymore. And just in comparison with how other government entities in Vermont do this, the RPCs don't have this restriction. And in fact, they're explicitly authorized to incur indebtedness to buy office space. I think we should be treated the same way. And I don't really see, granted, I'm not a lawyer and I didn't do a full review of every line of statute on this, so there may be an issue with it, but I don't see one. And I think if there was an issue, Ledge Council would let us know when we tried to make the change. So at this point, I'm planning to ask the board next week to approve this statute change, and that we would try to get this worked into a bill this session. We think there's Agency of Agriculture always does a cleanup bill that we might get this added to, but the other place might actually just be through Senate institutions, who again is very friendly to us and who we're making the request for capital purchases of. So that's the overview. Open it up for questions or comments or feedback.
It
Yeah,
makes sense to me.
Go ahead, Bill.
It makes sense to me. You just have to be very careful when you even propose to open a statute, because they can make all kinds of changes that we don't like, and you have no control over it. It's just a slippery slope with that stuff. Most of the time it works fine, but other times not so much. At least in my experience.
Yeah, that's what we've been advised as well. I think there's a couple things that might be in our favor this year. One is that we're not asking to add any language. This is just removing language. And we think it could be fit in just a cleanup bill. And also the legislature, I don't know that they have a lot of time or bandwidth to really start digging into additional changes this session. That said, it is a risk, which is why I'm hoping council can discuss and approve, because, you know, it is a big step. This would be the first time we would recommend a statute change proactively, as you know, as maybe in our history. I'm not really sure, but I don't have records of us doing this before. So
The way I read the statute, a couple lines above it, it lets you borrow money, mortgage, lease, etc. Then you go 2 lines later and it says shall not.
She won.
it's really confusing.
Yes.
This may just be a cleanup item.
Yeah,
Just the fact
I
that it's
would,
yeah.
yeah, that's what I would think. It'd be a cleanup item.
Yeah. The one thing that is, you know, it says we can borrow money and mortgage, and then it says we can't, you know,
Right.
provided that the real estate not be mortgaged. The one thing that isn't as ambiguous is that the disposition of real property be approved by the governor. Again, that's not something you see with other entities. So at the very least, we should, I don't know. It could just be characterized as a cleanup item, either way, but you're right, Richard.
Yeah, I think this is overdue. If I understand, you'd present this to council. Hopefully they'd take a vote and approve its release to what, Senate institutions? Is that where it would go, or to the
Be
agency?
determined.
Yeah, okay.
We need to ask Agency of Ag if they're amenable to including it, but if not, it might just be, we might go straight to a committee. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I echo Bill's concern about, you know, you open something up and it could go all kinds of different directions, but I think that's just the risk we have to take. And if it does go in other directions, in addition to the mortgage prohibition, then I think we've got a general sense of other provisions of statute where there is some agreement on what we'd like. Then of course there are other provisions of statute that need change, but we don't have any sense of commonality on what it would be. But anyway, you know, I'm thinking of stuff like the seal And, you know, there were some things that we identified years ago that seemed to make sense to get rid of. But, okay.
Reminds me of telling a horse to go ahead and back up.
Yes.
Right. All right. Yeah, so I guess next week you'll roll that out to council and see what they have to say, but you can represent that you presented it to us and Finance Committee was okay with it.
Yep.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, the next item is just an update about some support for Lamoille Natural Resource Conservation District. I guess this is mostly just to keep you in the loop, but Peter Danforth, who was the GM at Lamoille, has stepped down. He let us know a month and a half ago that he was planning to step down, but his departure date was originally set for mid-February. He ended up leaving 2 weeks earlier than that, and it was a little abrupt, and the district has sort of been thrown a little to the for a loop in staff. So, if you could excuse me 1 second. I apologize. I had a daycare closure today, so my daughter's here with me. But so I was saying, Lamoille has been thrown a little bit for the loop for a loop with the abrupt departure of their district manager. They do have a district manager who is an interim district manager identified. Emily Porter Goff is a longstanding staff member of Lamoille. So she's helping them to sort of sort through and figure out their current situation. We have offered Lamoille to help assess their cash flow, and if they're in a position of not being able to make payroll, to give them an advance on some of their agreements. They haven't really needed that so far. And we did just pay their most recent Ag CWIP invoice, that was just, good timing. But, we are a little concerned that the district is behind on some of their deliverables and may need to have some amendments to some of their agreements in the future. So we're working on this. Lena has met with them. I think Jess has met with them. So all of our grant managers have met with Lamoille to discuss, where their project stand and next steps. But Lamoille also has a lot of funding from external partners. I was contacted by ANR, by staff within DEC with concerns. So we're just sort of all pulling together to help them out right now. But VACD is going to help with hire a new district manager, and hopefully we'll just get them through this time period. They'll have a new district manager and things will pick up as they were. But I'm just giving this committee a heads up because they may have a request in the future to advance some funding. So.
And is it okay if I just add a little bit about XUIP and
Oh, yeah,
Lamoille?
absolutely. Yeah.
So I know that our newest application for XUIP is applied through VACD, not council, but since you guys have been so involved in the past, just wanted to make you guys aware that we did talk in depth with the agricultural staff about sort of decreasing the deliverables for this particular round that they went into, knowing that they were in this situation and that they struggled to meet their deliverables, and we did actually reduce their award that they're currently managing. So they have been, from my perspective, they have been extremely cooperative and willing to make happen whatever needs to happen. And I think they just need that support and that guidance to figure out how to do it. So we're trying to work that through with them and help them figure out realistic and accomplishable goals and meet the obligations that they already have.
Thank you, Emily.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions about the situation?
I can certainly understand it. We went through that ourselves a couple of years ago with the transition.
Yeah,
Franklin also.
yep, Winooski. Yeah, and so hopefully VACD, working with the supervisors there, can,
Yep.
get the job notice out and make a selection and get things moving along with the
Yep.
new DM.
Sure.
Has Pam Stefanik retired?
No, but our understanding is she's planning to this spring.
Okay.
Monroe is working with their board to try to anticipate, a need for support around transition there.
I believe they may have started recruiting for the position already. I might be wrong about that. But we did include some support for a district manager in the Ag CWIP ask. So I'm not sure if that will end up staying in or being cut given how tight we anticipate it being this year. But we are hoping that whomever they bring on can be more than just a, quarter time FTE or something like that. So, yeah, hopefully they find someone great. And the agricultural staff person who's been working there, Rory, I supervise Rory, and I think that's really helped immensely with the relationships in that area. And we've been building up a lot of their programming, and things are going really well from that front. So hopefully we can get someone in and get Pam her well-deserved retirement.
She's been planning on it for a while now, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated on how that goes. And certainly if there become candidates, I think we are planning to have VACD staff help review. So we'll keep you updated. Okay, I don't have anything more on that item. Any other questions?
No?
All right.
So-
So the next item I have are just staffing updates, and this is an update about the I guess the personnel agreement that VACD or that council holds with VACD. By and large, we are on track within that budget. We are under budget to date with that item. We have switched to Willie approving those invoices now that he is board chair. And Lena did just pay the most recent invoice today. So I guess just the main update I wanted to give you was just about our staff time. We are a little bit under in terms of hours for my position specifically. We budgeted 90% of my time to council, and right now I'm hitting about 50. So a lot of that is, again, due to the circumstances I mentioned earlier. We had the VACD executive director transition, Jeff Farber and Carrie Youngblood transitioning out of their roles. All of that has really meant that I've spent a lot of time with VACD supporting them through those transitions. Jill, Jeff, and Carrie were the three longest serving VACD staff. So losing them all in 1 year has been a lot to transition. And then we had to navigate the government shutdowns and the funding issues. So all that to say is that in terms of performance under the contract that, the council holds with VACD, there are some things that have fallen by the wayside, including council accounting. Lena has been able to keep up and will be keeping up with basic entries. But what's not getting done right now is the review and financial reporting, which is usually something that I do. So VACD is hiring for an HR manager that's going to backfill a lot of what Jeff and Carrie have done. And we're recruiting for that now. The recruitment deadline, I think, is first week of March, and we're hoping somebody can start pretty soon after that. Once that person is on board, I should be able to dedicate most, if not all, of my time to council. So that's just a staffing update. This has been a challenge because we share staff. And I think in the future, I would like to move to a situation where we're sort of splitting people less between entities. So we're not in this position of needing to compromise
Right.
on who's doing what. I think that's been the goal for a while. Hopefully we can make that a reality, at least for next fiscal year. But just wanted to bring that to the committee's attention and see if you had questions or concerns that you want to talk through today.
No, I don't have any concerns, Claire. Obviously, there's been a couple of bumpy patches, and to the extent that you are aware of, where your time is spent and not spent, I think that's, kudos to you for trying to keep track of it. And the title of the new position is what? Human resource?
Yeah, it's human resource manager.
Okay.
So that will free up my time. Right now, I'm spending quite a bit of time on things like benefits administration and things like organizational insurance review and renewal. And that's not the kind of stuff that was intended. Like it's
Yeah.
stuff that Carrie Youngblood used to do. So we're shifting that to the new position. I can get out of that and then rededicate time to the council.
Yeah.
How's the switch over to Union Bank going?
It's going well. My understanding is everybody has signed their paperwork. Lena and I need to schedule a walkthrough with them for the new account. So I'm hoping that'll happen next week. And after that, we'll make the transfer of money. So I guess Rick and Bill, just a heads up, we will be asking you to do a large transfer probably next week. I think we're going to need to, I need to contact Union or M&T Bank because it's going to be such a large amount. We're going to need to get pre-approval for that. Otherwise they trigger, limit restrictions. So more on that to come, but everything's set up. And we've gotten access. I've gotten system access and looked around. Lena has, it looks very straightforward. It's just, we do still need to make the transfer.
Sounds
And
good.
then my question is, how are we going to return the tokens?
I think, well, I'll ask M&T, but they do need to be returned. And I think it might be easiest if you mail them to me and then
Yeah.
I can return them. But let's not do that until after we,
No,
obviously after we.
I understand. No,
Yeah.
when you give us the word, then we'll do it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's great, Claire. Looking forward to it. And so it's sort of taking money out of M&T and putting into Union, basically to be able to, provide the seed money on our account and then do whatever transactions we need to do out of Union while we make sure we no longer need M&T, and then we just close that out, transfer the remaining funds from M&T over to Union, and then we're done. So,
That's right.
yeah.
So we'll transfer the money over. We'll start doing payments out of Union. Lena and I will go through and make sure all of our funders have our updated bank information. Lena has already started doing that with some of the institutional renewals we do, our SAM account registration, things like that. So yeah, that's the process.
Thank
Great.
you, Claire and Lena, for working on that switch over.
Yep. It's a lot of work.
Yep. But in the long run, it'll be more profitable, I guess you would say, and sounds like from what Lena knows, an easier bank to work with.
We're happy to do it. Okay, any other questions? Okay. The last item I have here is on the agenda is a discussion of the relationship between districts and NRCS. As I think probably you know, right now districts are reviewing the memorandums of understanding and the unfunded cooperative agreements that they hold with NRCS. This is what allows districts to like use the NRCS office space, access their computers, etc. We have heard some concerns with the current MOUs and UCAs. Overall, it sounds like districts have been feeling that those agreements ask too much for what they're receiving, and present some challenges. So we've gotten some feedback from districts, and I'm hoping to have a bigger conversation about this at the board meeting next week, with council. Because I think there may be some specific requests of NRCS, either to amend the language of the current agreements, or districts might not sign, and then we'd be in a position of needing to support them in moving their operations. So right now, Sarah and Corey, who are serving as our district manager reps, they're wrangling information from the districts, so we will have some survey results and some specific feedback to present to the board next week. But this is a longstanding issue. It's challenging because in other states, districts are funded a little better, and so this issue doesn't become as big of a deal, because either districts own the buildings and NRCS rents from them, or districts have enough money to sort of meet their match obligations on the unfunded cooperative agreements. We're sort of in a hard place because the core funding we receive isn't really enough to really do everything outlined by the agreements, as well as district's other statutory, required work. So that's the major objection. So it may be that we ask NRCS to make some changes for Vermont, or this may be this may be something we bring to the legislature's attention as a additional justification for our need for additional funding. So this is just, I guess, to give you the opportunity to have it ask questions or give input, but that's something I'm hoping to talk about with the board. And then separate to that, there's another issue about districts being technical service providers, but I'm going to hold off on that just so we can stick with the MOU and UCA question. Does anybody have questions or comments, feedback to give on that topic?
I would think certain districts will have to be careful and may have to continue, because where else do they have to go? If they have another place to go, like our district, well, no problem. But there's some districts that don't have that opportunity. So so can this be done individually, like certain districts? Okay, so it isn't a blanket all of Vermont. Okay.
No, this is a case by case.
Case by case.
Yeah.
So those certain districts that don't have a place to go will have a different conversation with NRC, with whatever the acronym is, to look into their abilities to move or not.
Yeah.
We've been asked to move or consolidate some of our stuff at our office. Right now, we only have a cubicle and a couple file cabinets. Since COVID, we have made very little use of that space because, of course, COVID was shut down. And with the funding the way it is, and now our district manager lives in the opposite end of the district, it's not a real convenient location. But we're proposing to add an ag person this summer. Then we're going to need our NRCS, we're gonna have to get an NRCS computer and have access in that building so that they can use that for the training and the other purposes they use the ag computer for.
Yeah.
So we're not sure what's going on up there. We're co-housed. Not only are we in that building, but also White River. That's their office.
Yeah.
So
They
it
have
sounds
four
like
walls and a door. We don't.
it's a case by case district discussion.
It is. So we might end up in a position where some districts sign, some don't. Um, it's a kind of an interesting position right now because while a lot of districts are sort of at the mercy of NRCS in terms of they don't have anywhere else to go, that is their office space. At the same time, NRCS is really relying on districts and staff more, particularly with the reduction in federal staffing levels. So districts may actually have more leverage now to get changes than they have in the past. So that's what we're trying to work through is can we make any changes or not? The one thing, while it is the district's choice on whether or not to sign the agreement, I think the the language presented to districts would be uniform across the state. So that's the one thing where it might be a blanket all or nothing for the state is what the agreement language looks like. Because NRCS does like to have the expectations of deliverables relatively consistent across the state. So that's one of the things we need to talk about with council, and I'm hoping Corey and Sarah can present more information about what the specific asks might be.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Some of the officers may not want to disconnect, and RCS wants the district help.
Yeah, we just did these things before, not too long. Trying to think back, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we just went through this with redoing the whole thing to get they wanted language uniform across the country. I think was their goal.
Yeah. And some of the changes we're seeing in the language for the agreements this year has come down from the national level.
Yeah.
Is my understanding. And Emily, I don't know if you know anything more or have anything to add on this. I don't know how involved you've been in that process. I've been a little bit less involved this time around than I was 5 years ago.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I apologize.
Just asking if you had anything more to add on the question of NRCS memorandums of understanding and unfunded cooperative agreements.
I don't think that there's a whole lot more that I have to add. I think it's sort of a moving target every time there's a change in NRCS leadership and whatnot. So we just do our best to do what makes sense in any given year when it comes up, and then go from there.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. Well, I guess more to come on this for the council meeting next week. Like I said, well, I'm going to send out some information in advance of that meeting. And Corey and Sarah should help be able to, if there are any specific requests or anything we need to vote on, I'm hoping Corey and Sarah can help nail that down. So. But that's all I have, both for this item and for the agenda. So.
Ready?
When's that council meeting scheduled?
Oh, it's
The 26th.
Yeah, so it's next week. It's on Thursday, and it's I'm sorry, scheduled for 1 p.m.
Either in Montpelier or you can join remotely by Zoom or Teams, whatever the platform is
Ye-
now.
Yes, I haven't sent out the email with information about the meeting yet. I was going to do that this week, but I'm hoping everybody did get the calendar invite. Julia sent that out a couple months ago, I think. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping you have that on your calendar. If not, I'll follow up with Julia.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. If that covers all of our business today. Just paging ahead then, our next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for March.
March 18th.
Okay. At 8:30.
Yes.
Very good. Wednesday, the 18th of March, 8:30. Thank you, everybody, for coming and all of your work in these various arenas. So we'll just sort of sit tight if Michelle or any of our district managers need us to say anything to any legislator. We're prepared to do it. So great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
everybody. Have a great day.
Yeah,
Call
you
for
too.
adjournment?